welcome to another episode of Inez Talks. Today I am welcomed by the head of design from Equals Money, Sandra. How are you?
Hi, thank you, Inez. Very well.
Thank you for coming. So let's just get straight into it. It'd be really great for you to sort of tell the audience, and obviously I'd love to kind of know a bit more about like how you've gotten to where you are today, and obviously kind of how you're the title of head of design at Equals Money. Like, what was that journey like? And yeah.
Sure. Oh my gosh, how far we can go. I think. Let's start by the influence. I think something that it was really important is all the background I got when I was a kid, when I was growing up. Like absolutely everyone on my family, like everyone is on the business, in the book business.
Oh wow.
So they either sell books or produce books or even write books. I think some inside me teach me from very early days that you can be creative and you can be very successful in life. So if you are creative, then you don't need to be afraid. It's a secure path to choose.
Yeah.
So I think that was one area. The other area is I grew up in the middle of the advertisement golden era, where I was enjoying more watching adverts than watching cartoons.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad will never understand, but I just did love so much the way in that period of time companies start to connect on deeper level with a huge audience and connect with them.
Yeah.
It was something magic around. So yeah, very clear about that. I went to arts and I spent like 6 solid years learning photograph, general arts. I got my first job as a photographer and I was a photographer for around 3 years. And all really cool, but then at some point I was thinking that I got the tools, I know how to be creative and do all these pretty things, but I want the meaning, I want to be able to connect with people at a big scale. And it's when I started to study design. I went to university, and the cool thing about then is just a few people got that chance back then. It was many places where you could study design. One of the big things is like a lot of people will crash or will used to have talks with people like Felix Beltran, which is one of the biggest designers in Latin America.
Yeah.
We normally used to have the Manuel Estrada, which is the president of design in Spain, just classing on the class or giving us talks very, very often. It's a really rich environment that it really shaped the way I am now, I'm thinking now. And then I moved to London. I think, yeah, we talk a lot about it. We just planned just to be for a few months and then I stick around here. I got in love and all that. Yeah, in London, the big opportunity was I was able to work with agencies all across the world. I went a lot of creative agency for around 3 years, and that gave me the tool of working in different time zones, know how to move teams in that sense. And after that, I got the job that changed everything, and that was when I get in tech. Back in time, I didn't realize, but I took a job with a small startup in San Francisco. I wasn't expecting the impact they were going to have on me. But all of a sudden, after all these years on design, then I got this kind of mindset of Silicon Valley where there was something, the way they do things, the way they think, the way they...
It's different.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
It is. It's just not aiming anymore for perfection. It's just to getting things done, do big things in your life, and don't be afraid of it, and just don't look for perfection, but just change the way you work. So since then, I've been like jumping in different companies and try to bring all that, especially everything that I learned from them, to new businesses and shape the way they work.
So Sandra, you started Equals in an IC capacity. I know you mentioned as a lead UI designer. Did you find the transition from IC to leadership?
I think it's something natural. It kind of comes natural. The good thing about me is when I did that transition, it wasn't the first time. On my previous role, I was already leading the team. So I think when it comes to Equals Money, when the time comes, it happened like in a very natural way. But yeah, I think for most of the designers, I believe it happens on a natural way, or it should happen, it should feel on a natural way. It's just that you start with the craft, with the small problems, And at the end of the day, design is all about solving problems, right?
Yeah.
So when you start to get confident with small scale problems, then you start to think bigger picture. So it's like how we can get better briefings, so how we can improve the communication with this department. And before you realize, you really are picking up on bigger organizations' problems, which I think is part of being a leader.
Yeah.
The other bit that I found is something that determines what if you go through the next stage or not, is when there is complications and when things doesn't go right.
Yeah.
And if you take those opportunities, because I like to see those as opportunities rather than a problem, an issue, and then you start to create a safe space for everyone around you.
Yeah.
It just happened on a natural way. And in fact, it was quite nice how it happened the first time for me. I was at Neighbor.
Okay.
With salary finance, and
Yeah.
then there was few problems between different aspects I couldn't comprehend back then because I just joined, and then the head of design quit, different people left, and all the time I have my colleagues who were like really anxious about the situation of the design team itself. And I think it just went part of me to go and try to solve the problem, try to bring people together, communicate the team. And every time you do that, in a way, you get the seat on the table, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And back then, I think it was reporting back then to the chief of technology, and it was my own team who actually asked for me to become the responsible
nice.
of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, oh my god, guys.
Yeah.
I think like it always repeat when you're looking for the best for everyone, to create a safe space where you can get creativity, innovation, and all the jazz. Then it just comes together. It's just to be able to be there.
Yeah. I think I spoke to someone recently, and it's about, I think, being a leader or getting your kind of first foot in the door on that leadership as well is having advocates, and that's what you just mentioned there. It's like you've obviously shown those skills to be a leader, even if it was more of an IC capacity to start with, but you must have been almost stepping up to the plate before you necessarily had to.
Exactly.
And being sort of a glass half full rather than a glass half empty, because sometimes when your manager leaves, it might be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Let me find a new job. But instead, kind of like take that opportunity, which obviously people might not get that opportunity all the time. Managers might not leave, but
yeah, definitely.
I guess it's about sort of, if you do want to go into leadership positions, maybe would you say sort of like taking on mentorship as well, sort of if you can?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's always, I believe designers, we always learning constantly. So if if you find a mentor or someone that is inspiring for you, go for it. And you don't need to have like such a dramatic circumstance to jump in on a role sometimes, but it's about creating safe space or creating responsibility, like be responsible, not just for yourself, but for other people, definitely. I also believe that communication is a big part as well, in terms of not just make sure that we have the space, we do a good job, but also be able to communicate properly all the success to the wider business.
Yeah. And before you kind of got your leadership position, how would you say about getting a seat at the table if people can't necessarily get a seat at the table? Because I know there's a question like on lots of design leaders' minds, is sometimes the business doesn't always able the design team to get a seat at the table, but
it does. I think you're totally right. I think you have to go and keep proving the value of the design, and eventually it happen. I mean, of course, if you are in such a hostile environment where there is no empathy for design or whatever, but then pass it. All in it.
Yeah.
It's your job. But no, I think overall, you need to, like any relationship, you need to earn certain respect and bring value day by day. And then naturally things will happen. Then if it doesn't happen, maybe something else.
I wanted to ask you, because you've worked in sort of early stage startups, I think equals probably 4 years ago, the design presence wasn't probably where it is today. What would you say, or how would you best approach businesses when they're sort of just starting their journey and they're like, I need designers? Like, I know sometimes a lot of businesses will say they're creating the app and then they realise, oh, I need this designer to come in and do the app, but they don't really understand what design is or things like that. Like, how do you advise them on those design decisions and kind of seeing the value of design?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. When I actually, like a few years ago, we were very factual and it was a whole different person. I will start actually to understand like why what happened on that time that they think that they know they need now design and they didn't need it before. Like, what is the problem that is now on the table? And I will ask this because very often I think there is a misconception about what is design, and you will have different descriptions about. For some people, design is just something fancy that we put on the wall or we send to print, or another. For others, it's an app. For others, I don't know.
Some people literally, I had a conversation with a few design leaders yesterday, and they were saying sometimes people just think design's art. They just see it, look at it as art.
Exactly. It's very far from art, right? So for me, and that's personally, and maybe not everyone agree, but for me, design is problem solving.
Yeah.
And sometimes even the answer to this problem is maybe an idea. It doesn't need to be even pretty or visual or something that you can see or touch. So I would say, like, let's start with the core problems, understanding the business, like what happened in the business, why they think they need, what is the problem they're really trying to solve. And then once we understand that, when we understand, like, okay, we are on track to know the customers or an idea, roughly idea of the solution, is think about the culture of the business as well. Big part of the work we have done it was about change the culture and make them be part of design, not just understand it, but be part of it. And I think, as an example, I got something that I bring to every job I take, and it's the Lego workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this history about a company that I used to work on in the past. I wouldn't say which company, but they were on serious troubles. They are a big name in UK, everyone knows them, and all of a sudden they stopped to produce, they stopped to sell, to produce, things were going really wrong.
Yeah.
And they took an advisors and they said, like, look, we don't know what's going on, like we don't know why now we don't generate revenue. And all come to the culture. People were like really looking for perfection, not releasing new things, getting too long, too slow, because they didn't understand like the way of work. So they put these Lego workshops where I was part of one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely everyone, from the board to the guy on risk to customer service, will have to do these Lego workshops.
Yeah.
Just to understand how Scrum works.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, they completely changed the culture. People it was a major thing. So I believe like a big part of it is not just to understand the problem, but start to flip the culture of the people and bring design, like the value of design, in a positive level.
Definitely, and I think when you look at case studies where the CEO understands design or might have been an ex-designer or something like that, you have successful companies.
Case major.
Yeah, and it's those that might not, the CEOs don't see the value, that they're not maybe seeing the growth they wanted straight away or the revenue, but that's why you should invest in design from the beginning.
Exactly, yes. And as I say, if they don't know the value, because it's fair, like people come from different backgrounds, especially in banking.
I'd love to talk to you about design at different scales. So, designers in a design team, the different skills they may have or need versus like smaller teams versus larger design teams. Like throughout your career, obviously you kind of worked at both kind of larger and smaller organisations. Have you found a difference? And now obviously working as a head of design, appreciate like your team has probably grown as well? Like, how have you found the skill set that you needed from the beginning of your tenure as head of design to now? And
I mean,
broad question.
What question? No, I think, funny enough, I like how small organizations work in terms of the design set that you have. But I also believe that large organizations will benefit of pretty much the same approach of it, which maybe not everyone agree. But the reason is because at least where I'm looking for when I got a small team is to have a set of individuals that can be like wearing different hats, and they can do research, they can do UX, UI, and follow all the process along. And I think this is quite good because it allows you to, as soon as the business is growing, you grow in almost all these squads or whatever, squads, studios, whatever you want to call it. But it's just small groups of people that will do this work, and they will work really closely with product managers and so on. So for me, that has been working really well. But also, it's because for my team, allow them to have responsibility. When I started at Equal, they basically have UX, then have UI. And it was like 2 walls. It was like, and once you finish UX, here your UI, now you make it pretty.
Well, about 5 years ago, that probably was quite separated, and it's only a recent thing that people now, I'm a product designer.
Exactly. Like the West is like, I want a team of unicorns, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So the way to go is to make sure that each of them become a unicorn, if they not already are. And I think it's even very good for the career development. I got a lady on my team that when she joined at the same time, and it was like incredible on research and UX. But she was like really good at it, didn't really need to know anything about UI or like didn't really interest that. And over the past years, she's been like becoming a full unicorn and beyond. Like she does amazing research, UX, but then completely craft the UI, and then even is able to build some of these, which is insane. And you can see the satisfaction of these persons becoming like so much a completely unicorn, and that's fantastic. So it's opened so many doors.
Yeah, and do you find, I guess, designers that probably evolve into being more of a generalist or kind of, like I said, a unicorn, they can do kind of all of the end-to-end journey, it probably helps them in this type of market that we've had over the last year where designers have had to adapt, and there might not be a need to just have a UI designer. They need you to kind of put your hat on and do everything. I guess it kind of helps when times are tough as well, and the business needs you to do a lot with not a lot.
Exactly, it does. And perhaps I believe that with AI, the way things are going is that you need to be really good at learning new skills constantly.
Yeah.
Like having new skills and then be able to use like a range of different tools.
Yeah.
Because also these tools are getting better and better every day, which make that you become more powerful, more efficient, better at your job. So I think rather than get it to one specific area, is just to be able to have all this range of tools and use it as you wish. And if your company is expanding and is growing, then what you want is a lot of teams that can work on this format. When
you first joined Equals, the UX and UI was separate initially, like 5 years ago. How have you been able to sort of transition the team? Like, what's been your kind of method on being able to get that team to...
Yeah, so I did some research about, we got then these micro teams, but it is important to give ownership. And I believe when you give ownership over time, nice things start to happen. So I did a little bit of research about what will be the best way to break it down. And one of the things that I picked up really quickly is that I need a squad or a studio or whatever focus on the growth of the business. So I create a group which it was growth. It's called growth. It's just focused on it. So anything which is onboarding, future products.
Say onboarding.
Okay. So I break to these areas anything that it was onboarding, anything that is new customers to the product, and just be able to focus the growth squad in just looking at all these areas. Then identify that a lot of the things that we work, they are across brands and across product, because in Equals Group we have around 4 or 5 brands. Many times we design something, but then it rolls to different targets of customers and different brands.
Yeah.
So core is taking over anything that is cross-functional, and then we have function, which is the simple way to put it is everything that is super complex.
Okay. The hard stuff.
Yeah, all the heavy data, all the internal tools, and everything that needs a very complex mindset to basically
the nitty gritty B2B stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And that allow them to all of them to be full stack designers in a way.
Yeah. I like that term because I was something someone said to me. Engineers have full stack.
Yeah.
Engineering teams, designers should have full stack design teams.
It does. So yeah, full stacks, unicorns.
Yeah.
They become all owners on the way of that area.
If someone was looking for a new role at the moment and they're toying between sort of startups compared to more established companies, what would your take be on that? Because I know sometimes with startups people go, oh, there's so much risk and they want to be part of an established company, or like what do you think about that, and what would you sort of advise people if you can?
Risk is fun. It's the way I see it. Like honestly, I always would choose startups if I'm honest. I think big organizations are good at some point of your career to take specific skills or learn from specific people, but then perhaps I wouldn't advise go straight away to a startup, because maybe you want to take a little bit of time of take the craft, learn from other processes a little bit, and then go to a startup. But I definitely will go startups always. The reason is because you can do so many different things. One of the things that I love about startups is that most of the time you will get with a challenge in front of you, and the reality is you don't know. It's like, and that's okay. I think one of the things I love on Equals is we got a lot of young people with these big, massive responsibilities, and a lot of the times we don't know, and we're okay to say that. We're okay to say that. You know, it's like as soon you be honest and quickly learn it and do the job and look for the reference, be able to ask for help whenever you need. You have so many chances to succeed on startups, and of course because you are completely put on the pushing the boundaries every time after time, you definitely learn so much. And it is amazing. One of the things I learned with all these people in San Francisco, it was like you don't need to be old to be successful. You can be very young, have a successful business, massively successful business, and do millions. And you don't know the answer, but you can do it. It is okay. So I believe startups give you that chance constantly, and you just not stay on the comfort area. You constantly go beyond, which is really cool. So.
And I speak to people all the time from both, bigger enterprises and obviously smaller startups. I find, both have their perks, I'm sure. I know I speak to people that have gone from like startup to enterprise, for example, and they'll always say, gosh, it's so much slower.
It is slow. Because hopefully you get a successful startup. You do a good job, and they will keep growing and be better. So you actually got time sometimes to go and do things a little bit better. Like perhaps I got like an example design system at the moment. When I joined, I did the first design system of Equals. Now we're rebuilding the whole thing again. Like we know we have done the ground job, and then you'll be able to do again. Or I don't know. I got another time where I was completely crazy, but I got the chance to design a whole app by myself, which you wouldn't ever have that opportunity as a designer. It's very scary, but it's, you know,
If anything goes wrong, it's on me. But if it
but that's
goes well, it's all on you too. So
I think startups are fantastic, but organizations,
big learning opportunity there as well, right?
Exactly.
Because even those, when you look at like, you know, the kind of the big techs of the world, people might have worked on apps, but they might have only worked on like a small feature within an app as well. So the opportunity you get sort of within startups is probably, you know, a lot more sometimes as
it's
well.
quite big, and also be able to take the responsibility of it, like for good and bad.
Yeah.
Like, if you, I mean, I can tell you because I've been there. If you do something badly, the responsibility is on you. You really learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Like, you will never ever commit the same mistake ever.
To learn is to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you don't fail, you don't learn. So embrace failure, but also win.
Exactly, but win.
Yeah.
Win.
As we know, design leadership diversity is far behind probably what it should be. So how has it been being a female, especially in a more male-dominated industry, and as well as being from, you know, different backgrounds culturally and stuff like that? Like, how have you been able to like navigate that in your career as well as also in a leadership role?
So that's funny because I think I wasn't fully aware about the issue. Of course I know the issue, but I didn't feel the issue until I was like 34, 30 plus, which I think it's a lot of positives from the way I grew up. So I don't know if it was, when I was a kid, I was in a Catholic school with very powerful matriarchal women. But the thing is, like, I always feel one more on the table at every single point. So it doesn't matter if you go to a room with 10 males, English, whatever. It feels like you belong there. And I think that is really important when you come to navigate all that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you're there, you need to be, again, solving problems, trying to understand the core, and don't get distracted by any of this. So when it comes to a point that I think to all of us at some point of our life has happened, that someone says something a little bit unfortunate or whatever happened there.
I think we've all experienced it.
Yeah, exactly. But
Unfortunately.
it will change. It will evolve with years. I don't say it didn't happen that many times, but I can really count. But when that happened, it's something like you completely dismiss in a way, and either you put that person on their place, or it doesn't affect you. It's like you are still there and you still belong. And I think this is really important when it comes to navigate leadership, because one of the things that you need to be secure of who you are, what you bring on the table, and be able to have difficult conversations when you have to have it. Doesn't matter if it's a woman, a man, 60s, 30s, or whatever is the background. So in that sense, I think it's been easy in a way. I don't know how to explain, but it's been okay, and I hope it gets as a reference to many other women to be able to have difficult conversations and be okay. The bit has been a lot harder is the language and the culture. And everyone that happened through that journey, it's been through that journey, will understand. But I learned English when I was 26, so it's like all of a sudden you become a baby and you cannot communicate. One of the things I wish I would learn so much earlier is that it doesn't matter if it's something that you're not secure with, you can use it on your advantage. And with the language and with the different culture, I found that can be really powerful, even on big meetings or serious meetings. Because all of a sudden you're not perfect, which is great. Everyone hates perfection. And people actually will empathize with you and will connect with you. And in many occasions even back you up or help you, because suddenly you have a relationship there in a way someone has connected with you. So I wish I knew that before and how to use it on my advantage. And I try to encourage people that come from other countries with the same problem to say, you know what, you as valid as someone else. Even if your English is not perfect, that's okay.
So my understanding my understanding is when equals hired you in initially, obviously lead UI designer, but it was initially to come in and implement their design system. So since kind of doing that and completing it, like how have you found like the evolution of design systems within the industry, and like how have you found design systems can like positively impact a business from your experience?
I think it's been like an incredible journey over the past 5 years, design system. Just before Christmas, I was attending to the first Design Systems Awards, which is incredible. Now, thinking we just have awards for that field. I think it has changed so much and has proved so much on the business. We got a couple of instances and equals where we really like proved the value of the design systems.
Yeah.
For instance, it was a point where we used to use Wildcard as one of our processors. I don't know if you know, a few years ago it was like this scandal with Wildcard.
Mm-hmm.
Short history is that we didn't really care about if it was what they were saying. We just wanted to make sure our customers were safe. So we have to build a whole app over a weekend.
Yeah.
And that's completely nuts. It was so many things happened there that make it possible, which is kind of almost impossible. But one of the big things was the design system. Be able to have the front end, in that sense, all prepared to almost like frame and produce. It was incredible in terms to doing this big task in just a few days. And then after that, over and over, we improved the design system. It just saves so much time. It's going to be a lot more coming up in terms of how we manage properly the design systems, how we evolve. Figma has been playing a big kind of, don't know how to say that, but Figma is very present.
Yeah.
And thanks to Figma,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of this has happened, right? So, yeah, I'm very expecting to see like what's coming next in terms of design system.
Definitely, and I think in the last few years, there's definitely been kind of more like a larger presence of like having design specialist roles within a team.
I would love to have one.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I would love to have one. There is a need because it's I mean the discussion I'm constantly having with when we talk about the roadmap, we sit down. It's like design system is another product. We need to see it as another product because we need to keep working on it, do releasing improvements and fixing bugs.
Yeah.
Going back, documentate. So ideally, if you're serious about it and you can afford to have a design system team.
So something I'm speaking about to a lot of design leaders at the moment is how there comes a certain point in a designer's career where they need to sort of start learning how to speak metrics, and it's not just about the design work when it gets to that point, and more shifting into like a business mindset. Like, what would you say your take is on that, and how have you found doing that yourself, like shifting through?
Yeah, I think UX metrics are hard, but at the same time are beautiful because all of a sudden you start to speak the same language that designs. What I found on the startups is that, and I don't know, I mean big companies, I guess some of them yes, is that it's not always easy to know where to start. And the reason is because very often you arrive and then you have analytics there installed. You have a data team over there where you don't even speak with the analytics team and you just care about the user. You want to know like, okay, how many people go to my social post, click, go to the website, then convert, And so it's hard. It started by a point that in many cases it's very hard because you don't have the funnel, and that's beyond design. It's more about bringing data teams, marketing teams, and design teams working together.
Yeah.
But I think even though when you are on that point, it's just start simple. So I've been in business where we said that the metrics that we knew, it was the number of users. So we got the goals that we want to increase X amount of users in this period of time. Or perhaps you want to know like how you can increase your revenue. So then just focus on that piece and say, okay, we do these designs, flows, and we can predict this kind of increase revenue. All that taking in account what is the company forecast. So talking to the board, try to understand like what is the expectation regardless of any design changes, what is the expectations we have on conversion, or what expectations we have in revenue, and try to address that. But I feel positive that over the years we're gonna have more tools. I don't know if you know Full Story.
No.
It's a tool that we started to use, I don't know, like a year ago, something like that. It just started to give us the full scope of the user journey.
Okay, cool.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
But again, it brings you new challenge because once you're there, you want to connect that with revenue. It's not just like people.
Because the board care about the revenue.
Exactly, because it's what they talk. It's like
Yeah.
if you give the users, fantastic. If you give numbers, even better in terms of how much money we can generate. So I think it will keep evolving, and we still learning like ourselves. We getting new tools, new dashboards, and it is important the word support to have data teams. One of the things that happened a couple of years ago is we started to have a data team in-house, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
We also have Harry, which is the head of marketing at Equals, who started to work with Hoa, the head of data.
Yeah.
And now we have this fantastic dashboard about revenue. We can see like, okay, this guy has clicked, create a card, and that has cost this, and now we generate this money.
Yeah.
So it's in constant evolution, I feel like. And it doesn't matter in which point your business is, you can go and make it work.
Do you feel like almost a sense of responsibility to teach your designers about metrics as well, even just from kind of like being like a mid-level designer, like get them kind of in the mindset earlier on about it as well, so that they're equipped?
Yeah, it is. And I will also say there is a big gap. I don't know if someone there is listening, but I feel like when you go to, okay, I want to scale up my team in terms of how to use qualitative data. It's fantastic. You have like 1,000 books, a lot of training over there.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about metrics and numbers,
Yeah.
like the thing completely changed. I've been talking with Hoa, the head of data, about this topic recently. And he was like, man, I really want to speed it up like my team in terms of using data, like get better myself at using data. But there is this big gap on the market. Like if you try to look for design metrics, data, revenue, like kind of training is more focused on this area. It's just like
it's bare.
It's pretty much not much there.
Kind of learn as you do it in the role, really, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm positive. Things will start to get more and more, and then we have AI, which is like a new layer of complexity there.
Helps.
So,
And did you find it difficult initially when like people were starting talking loads of metrics at you, or was it quite easy to kind of transition for yourself?
Well, you know what? For some reason, I always been more tempted to numbers, and I feel because for me numbers are like facts.
Yeah.
Kind of like, so I love. I don't know if you are responsible.
No grey areas.
Exactly, it's like if you're responsible for results, I guess like many leaders there or head of the science will agree. Numbers, it just gives you the facts, and it's something that you can take to the board and talk through, and it just always makes sense. So yes, I found challenge, but at the same time, I found it's an area where I can trust. As soon as the data is being properly tracked.
And it must help for the design team as well, like when you're kind of having to, forgive me if I'm wrong, but when you're kind of getting maybe another head count for the design team, stuff like that, like understanding these like metrics can help you kind of put forward like business case studies to like, we need this because of this, and you know, these metrics show that, so that's why we need this new role.
It does massively. It just simplifies so much the conversation in terms of that, and I think that's why. I mean, I'm talking for myself, but I believe like most of people in the same position, we look for being able to have these funnels, these marketing funnels in place, because it just makes our job a lot easier in terms of proof results and in terms of proof the value of the design team itself.
So let's talk about success. How would you go about communicating design success stories to kind of like the wider organisation? Like what have you done to do that?
Well, that's funny because I spent not last year, but the previous year trying to solve this problem. Because I feel that we were doing it, but we could have done it better.
Okay.
And so historically, in every company I've been, including in Equals, what we normally will do is we will use these big, like, I don't know, meeting events, company events.
Yeah.
We call it all hands. We do like once every 2 weeks, and then everyone talk a little bit about the highlights of the company. And then there is also the format of show and tells, when you go to engineers and and you have more time to talk about the projects. But what I found is like none of them was for designers. I think it's good to sometimes give a highlight here and there.
Yeah.
But the thing with design is like, if you are on a big meeting, I don't know, all hands, kind of, you have the whole company listening, you have max 2 minutes. Everything that is happening in design, which is a lot.
Yeah.
With all the background, research, insights, prototypes, it's just not the right time for us.
And also you're speaking to people that don't speak the language of
Yeah.
design as well, right? So how do you get that across so they can understand it?
It's just not possible. I mean, you can say like, hey, this highlight, but find out more because we're going to follow up. So all hands didn't work for us. And then we try show and tell. And the problem that we have with show and tell is that most of the time, people attending is just product, engineer, that's about it. But you don't have everyone in the business. So again, you start to alienate design because not everyone access to all the information. And we were trying to think like how we can solve this problem. And I got very inspired by Spotify. Because they have, I don't know if you are on the Design Spotify website, they have a newsletter.
Yeah.
You put your email there, they will send you these amazing newsletters once in a while, which is an email where they explain everything about the projects, they do blog posts. So I thought, well, you know, I may don't have a website yet for design, but let's try to find a newsletter. And I started to do last December, a year now. I've been sending every month one to everyone, absolutely everyone in the business, where we share prototypes, we talk about the insights that we found with customers, we talk about rebrandings that we do in challenge, things on the fly, things implemented. And people is loving it, honestly. Like people from all across the business has come to tell me, like people on payments, on risk, customer service, many people that never talk to them. And they all of a sudden they completely on board, they know what is design, what we do, what is happening.
Oh, that's good.
So
that's a really positive outcome.
It is.
Yeah. And with the newsletters, is there anything, because you said it didn't quite work, was that what you've done now that's worked for you? The newsletters is kind of where
Yeah, I think it's the way to go. I would like to expand our website if I can, if we can have time and resources. But definitely, and it just keep also innovating on the way. I think the newsletter has worked and it's working now, but who knows next year.
I'd love to talk to you about recruitment. Seeing as that's something I know quite well, especially design recruitment. But I always love to ask like different design leaders and obviously yourself, like what have been your biggest challenges when hiring for design?
So it's definitely not the skills, I would say that. What I'm normally looking for is, you know, like that kind of mindset and connection with the team.
The spark.
Yeah, it's something, it's just the mindset really. And I would say like not the skills, because the skills can be learned. Besides, they should be learned. Design, what it means to be a design have drastically changed over the past 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, it's not about having 20 years experience on your CV. It's more about having this mindset that you're learning constantly and able to adapt, to change, and to do something new. And of course, have a good fit with the team. So, yeah, I got a few examples of people. I got Oli, which is a fantastic brand designer that joined us a year ago. And I remember when he joined, he was a really good illustrator, but it was like how we frame this, but we know he will be the right person to evolve in something like incredible. And you can see right now Nico's brand, if you see like the way we were like a year ago, and the stuff he's producing right now, illustration-wise, like not just how much he learned, but how the own illustration style has evolved.
Yeah.
So when looking for people like this that can become better and better and keep learning new skills.
Yeah, and when you find yourself hiring, is there something that people can do to kind of, whether that, like you said, it's not about the 20 years in the CV, but is there something they can do without having to have that first initial phone call with you to see if they've got that spark? Because obviously that's going to be important, but is there stuff that you look for in their portfolios or CV to think, okay, this person's got a bit different? Because I mean, especially at the moment, the market's crazy.
Yeah.
With the amount of redundancies that have happened over the last year, and I know there's more people looking for work than ever. How do designers set themselves apart from other designers that realistically can do the same job?
But I'm looking for the wow factor, if I'm honest, on portfolios. It doesn't need to be visual. Visual, it can work really well. Like something unexpected on the portfolio that, and it could be the intro that you do, something that it's like, wow, this guy.
Yeah.
So you don't forget the portfolio, right? But it can be also on the copy, like some kind of really interesting copy, some tweaks, something that it makes you think, makes fun. So yeah, I'm looking for that kind of a spark, as we say, that goes beyond, rather than, I don't know, like 20 projects. I always say that, and Inez, you may be on this the same, but when you check in portfolios after portfolios, you don't have a lot of time because you got like, I don't know, 20 portfolios to check on the time. So it really is about the first seconds of the portfolio.
It is, yeah.
It's something like like the hook, basically. We work doing this for other business, so we should be able to do it for us.
Yeah, and I do find I for me anyway, when I'm looking through portfolios initially, like I'll click on the portfolio and then I'll make sure I'll do a quick kind of scroll to the beginning to the end to see that how long is it, how much storytelling have they put in that portfolio, can I tell initially, even just from the first sort of 3 seconds of looking at your portfolio, that you're giving me the problem, you're giving me the user, what went right, what went wrong, what was the solution, what could I have changed? So like want to make sure all of that is in there. And I think for me, when I look at portfolios, that's what I think the design leaders that I work with would look for.
I feel like I guess I feel lucky, but I feel like most of the people now, or at least most of the people that arrive, to go to the point at the very minimum. I feel like to have the storytelling is almost a must. It has to be there. Like, it has to be able to find that you know to do the whole process. And then the wow factor.
Like when you've had a day where you look through like 20 portfolios, if you are hiring, is there anything that you find from sort of like the next generation of designers that there's one thing that sticks out to you that's missing more than most on portfolios, that people might be able to kind of listen to this and go, oh, I need to make sure I have this on my portfolio for when I'm interviewing next time? Or...
Yeah. So before we were talking about metrics, I think it's one of the ones. The portfolio, if you have an amazing portfolio and everything there is fantastic, that's great, you have the wow factor. But again, metrics can be your wow factor. So if you say like, I don't know, you increased this business by 1 million of users since you started to the day you left the business. I mean, something good, you have done it. And it's these numbers that can be very powerful in terms of the real impact, whatever is like the stock company has increased or whatever it is, I don't know, the millions of revenue that we were able, thank you to this.
I've spoken to, even when we've helped certain companies scale their design team, and when I'd be speaking to people and I'd be like, do you have those metrics, do you have that impact section, and if so, can you add it? And I'll give them that tip before I even send their profile forward, because I just know that that's going to be what gets them a first stage interview. So as AI is a hot topic at the moment, everyone's talking about it always, like, are there any AI tools that you've used that can help you on a day-to-day that designers listening might have not used, or like for certain like tasks that you found has kind of sped things up?
So, I do, but actually I do for simple tasks mostly. It really helped me, again, as no English speaker, it really helped me to be confident when I have to write serious emails to important people, because it just gives you this confidence of, okay, fine, I may not English speaker or English my first language, but I can write my test, then I can check, then I can triple check, and things go right. I found really useful, and I think it's been like massively for especially people from other backgrounds to have AI on that sense.
Yeah.
The other simple task that I will use it a lot is just to extract insights, so be faster when we come to research, be able to extract a lot of findings in a short period of time, go through scripts and clean up text. So those kind of tasks, no constant, not just AI, but Notion, I feel like has make a big impact on our
I love
team as
Notion.
well. Yeah, it's just completely changed the way we work.
Yeah.
And it's not like just AI, I guess Notion, we use it as a part.
Organisation with Notion
Yeah,
as well.
organisation. Figma, we use it a little bit, but not that much. I still believe, designers, you can have a plugin that does a few tasks for you across tidying up your canvas and so on. But overall, I believe AI we should use as a tool. We shouldn't be afraid of it. So it's just to take those tasks that take a lot of your time. You shouldn't be spending that much time and try to do it through them. Help you up. I think honestly I don't believe we should be scared about AI. You know what I really believe is that it's gonna level up the game.
Yes.
Because now you may have, 10, 12, 20 designers, but those 10, 20 designers have like superpowers in a way.
Yeah.
So the whole industry work faster, better.
Well, it's the same in recruitment as well. I think since the use of AI has come out, there was those that were doing kind of, daily kind of posts about the market, like for me specifically design. Since AI has come out, apparently everyone can do, everyone's releasing kind of, ChatGPT, LinkedIn posts and everything like that. So you've now got an industry of everyone who appears on the surface to know their stuff, but what am I now doing to level up?
AI is gonna give us level up the game. People get more creative now because then we need to get the unexpected on the table.
Yeah, it's exciting. And what do you think it's gonna mean for business? It could be for you guys in general, your business in general, or the industry. What do you think in the long run it's gonna?
I think we were talking before about how much has evolved the design role over the years. I think now we are on the faster evolution that we're gonna see. So
you just think it's gonna go?
Totally. I don't think what we understand today as a designer. We say 10 years ago we would say designer, maybe it's graphic designer. I don't know. 20 years ago it was print.
Yeah.
I feel like now we are on this kind of digital era where we're talking a lot about pro designers. I think it definitely is gonna change a lot. And what I normally tell to everyone in my team is that put the time to learn these tools. Just learn them. Make sure that you are on the top on it, because at the end of the day, this is what it is. It's tools, so you need to be empowered to know how to do and how much you can do with them.
Yeah, no, definitely. Great advice. Thank you so much for joining me today. I learned so much, and it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed it. Good. And if you enjoyed the conversation that we've had today, please subscribe to Inez Talks, and look forward to you joining us next time.